first presentation, but you're here first, so I'm going to start. And if they start talking, it'll be like every day here. So welcome to Accelerated Algebra 1. I am Mr. Dutel. In the event you're here for Accelerated Algebra 2, that's technically later, but I won't tell anybody. Everything I discussed with you, I actually will go over with them tomorrow. We actually haven't talked about classroom guidelines and rules yet because I just can't do it the first couple days. I feel like they get all excited to go to middle school or 7th grade, and then the first day is just rules, rules, rules. So we actually have just jumped right into tasks and working through problems, and I've slowly shown them some class work, class guidelines and everything. Tomorrow I'll actually go over this information with them, so you're actually seeing more than they have right now about the class. Hopefully it makes its way to you and the syllabus can get signed and returned. I did reassure them if they're just dying to see the syllabus, they can look at it before tomorrow, but hopefully none of them have. There is a list of topics that we cover in Algebra 1. There's some good news here. As states have shifted to core standards and everything, and you're looking at different books and new math, algebra is still pretty much the same kind of course it's been since like the Babylonians, I think. It's a pretty traditional course in the topics that we cover. There's a little bit of pre-algebra overlap at the beginning, and then we cover pretty much what you would expect to cover in an Algebra 1 course. So the course has become a little bit more traditional around now, when we're talking Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. It's a comforting fact for the mathematical people because they're like, when will we get to the things we remember? It's pretty much this course, in my opinion. We use 2 textbooks in here. One is the bulk of it. This guy, it's a very traditional, comfortable algebra book for a lot of us. I have copies. I only give them out by request because they haven't made their way back. I pretty much copy and manipulate and put everything that they need in their classwork. If you would love a copy of this, you can always email me. I can send one home. I used to send them out with everybody, and the return rate was too low. But we have 2 books. This is probably about 80 to 90% of our curriculum. 10 to 15, 20% is related to the Connected Math series. They used a lot of that in pre-algebra last year. It's basically a flip. Last year it was probably 80% this, 20% that. We're at the other end of the spectrum this year. So I do have copies of these. If you would like one, if you think your student would benefit from having the hard textbook at home instead of copies, just send me an email and I'll send one home with them. And I love seeing the look on their face when I tell them, hey, Mom and Dad, we're asking for this book. What's their year going to be like? Honestly, they're all going to think it's going to be like this, not only because it feels comfortable, but because they all know it's y equals mx plus b. It's not going to necessarily look like this, probably somewhere in between. The messaging this year will not just be the content, but also how do they handle bumps in the road? How do they handle working through some adversity? Because honestly, they want to do well and their grades are critical to them. Middle school is just as much about habits as it is the actual algebra content. They're never going to remember what they got in 7th grade algebra in all likelihood, but hopefully they can develop enough habits where they know it's not going to always be like this. I hope it's not quite like this, but if it does veer in this direction, they can kind of get themselves right. So what are my messages to them? I want them to be active in the class. The hardest students that I've had to work with in this course over the last 15, 16 years have been ones that just didn't want to participate during class. I tell them make the most of your 55 minutes. The more active and more productive we are in 55 minutes, the less you need to struggle with at home. I do encourage them to ask questions. There's a lot of ways to ask them now. If they don't want to put their hand up and ask it in front of the group, they can stop by, they can send me an email. There's a lot of ways that they can seek that help if they need to, but we want to avoid the snowball effect where if they don't ask a question, it just kind of gets away from them. We do a fair amount of group work in here. I think middle school is about balance. I think you should be able to work independently. I think you should be able to work with your peers occasionally, especially as we're still coming out of COVID from a couple years ago. I think some of those things need to come back. I'll work with them on their note-taking and hopefully being organized. I think it's very difficult to be organized now in 7th grade because you're not only paper organized, you're digitally organized. So we kind of push these messages throughout the year so that we can develop a full middle school student, not just the algebra student. Even encouraging them to do some old school things like, hey, why don't we put the iPad away, make a self-make study guide. I try to enforce some of these things throughout the year so that they take ownership of their learning instead of me telling them exactly what to do. So hopefully you'll see and hear about some of these habits and things that make our classroom go. Nuts and bolts of the course. Homework is 10% of the overall grade. I haven't actually given them official hardcore homework yet. I promised them it's coming. It is, but we'll get into that next week. Most homework assignments are worth 2 points and graded on completion as long as it hits the following points. Done honestly. They know if they've done it honestly. I mean, if there's supposed to be a sentence and they just write down 2, not really honest. Detailed in response, checked with the answer key, which I will talk about, and then handed in on time. So they haven't actually had any hand-in submission homework for me yet. It's coming, so hopefully they're still enjoying the honeymoon phase here. Assessments are 90% of the overall grade. They have them, they're usually about every 2 to 3 weeks apart. Most of them are tests. I will always email a list out to you with what we're about to take a test on, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. This is how their grade is calculated. There is no midterm, which is good. They get excited. And then when I tell them that the final is worth more, they're confused, and I say why? They say why, and I say because of math, because of numbers. Like when I take something away, something else goes up. Eventually they get it. So they don't have to go through the midterm, which is great for them, but that does mean the final's worth 0.8%. And again, they ask why, and I tell them, you know the answer. Their grade's actually really easy to calculate. Each quarter and the final's worth 20%. This is not like pre-algebra where I think there are ninths involved in the grading scheme in pre-algebra, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we don't have any of that. They will take the Keystone in this course in the spring. This is a high school graduation requirement. They all do very well. If we don't feel that they're prepared to take the Keystone, they probably didn't make it over into algebra. So they will take this in the spring. It's a very busy month for us. They will get there. I'll show this to them tomorrow and they'll start panicking about it. And I'll say, let's get to September before we worry about May. But they will take the Keystone, and I promise you, they may not understand it, but you can. They will do extremely well. They will be prepared. They always do.
Do you have a date on this? Like an exact date? May?
It's usually like the 14th or 15th. It's right around, I don't have the window yet, but it's usually like the 2nd to 3rd, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's right around there. Once I have it, I can narrow it down. They give us a window, and then our district picks. They do need to maintain the 85 in order to move on to the next course. When I talk to them about the 85, I tell them it's just to make sure that they're taking the right courses at the right time. They're appropriately challenged, but also not in over their head. I think middle school is a lot, and we don't need to compound it by being in a course that we're having a hard time keeping up with. This also doesn't mean if the first exam comes back in 82, it's like out you go. We just want to make sure that in the long term, you're headed down somewhere that is appropriate for you. So I'm sure they're going to see the 85. I'm sure it's going to give them nightmares. I'm sure they're going to have flat. It's not the message. It's just an overall district approach to making sure that they're taking the right course. They're being challenged, but they're not feeling like they're in over their head. So in the event they're anywhere close to the 85, I would be in contact with you in January, February. I'm not going to wait till the last week and be like, hey, by the way, they have an 82.4. You can usually see it coming. The students I've had, and I'll tell them this tomorrow, that have a hard time with the 85, they fall into one of 2 categories. They either just stop doing the work, which obviously you get the grade that you get at that point, or the course starts to move quickly and they don't do anything about it. Whether that be ask me for help, talk to you about asking me for help, or doing something. They just kind of freeze. You hope you never have these, but those are the majority of the cases I've had where the 85 is becoming a problem. We have to talk about the future of the course. So the big message is just, if the course starts moving quickly for them, I just beg they say something. And if they don't want to say something to me directly, they say something to you, hopefully, and then get the message to me. We can start to work through the material. But I see a couple every year where I can see it in their eyes, the course is moving a little quickly, and I'll be like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to work on it? And they say no. And it goes a little bit tough. So if you could help me with that, what you see at home, that would be great. I will always email you when we're about to take an exam. I did send one earlier. I hope it made its way okay because they changed the email system on me, but I think I figured it out. We are going to take one Tuesday. All of them will have a study guide with answers, with extra problems, which they love, except for the first one, which is a heck of a way to start the school year. I think that happened to them last year probably, and I said I'm sure that was a great way to start 6th grade. They've prepared really well for the patterns. I feel very good about where they're going. They have a little bit of extra time. We would normally take it tomorrow, but tomorrow's a 1 o'clock dismissal. Okay. I always like to just make sure everybody knows. We would take it tomorrow, but we can't. So we'll take it Tuesday. I feel pretty good about them. If they have questions, they can ask me. But all of the other ones will have here's the study guide, here's extra problems. Everybody feels good about those. But you'll get an email from me a couple days before each test. I finally started saving the emails and adjusting the dates instead of typing them from scratch. It took me 10 years to think to do that. A couple other quick things about the course. I do record class and post it each day. It's not them, it's just the screen. So no one's becoming famous here. They think they are, but they're really not. This is a tool that I anticipate them using occasionally. If they miss, if they are out sick for an extended period, they don't want to fall behind. If they go on an educational trip to Disneyland, which is great, and they don't want to fall too far behind, they have access to the class every day. I mean, should they be going home and having to rewatch the entire class every night? Probably not. That probably means there's a problem, or they're just bored. But if they need something, they have access to it. Maybe they just need to watch the last 5 minutes when we went over something. This is up there for them every day. You have access to it too if you want. My dad's a retired math teacher. He watches my class. I mean, it's still I think I've been posting it for 13 years, and he still watches them. It's there, okay, and it's not something I think they're all going to use all the time, but I think all of them will use it occasionally just to make sure that they don't, because I think falling behind or missing actually is more anxious for them sometimes than here. So the class is recorded, posted each day. We have the Schoology page. Just a couple of quick things, and again, they haven't seen these things really. How many times? I have too many Google accounts. Things you'll expect to find in Schoology. Course headquarters has my contact information, the guidelines, which again, they haven't seen yet, you're seeing now, the link to the YouTube channel. I do have the high school accelerated pathway on there. If you ever have questions, you can let me know because I run the department. What you really need to see though, on a daily basis, I'll go to next week. On any given day, you'll have the classwork, the homework, and then this is what they'll learn tomorrow. The homework answers. I actually provide them with the homework answers every day for a couple of reasons. One, I want them to check so that we're not spending 20 minutes checking the homework during class, because then if you check the homework for 20 minutes, then you don't finish the lesson, and it's this vicious cycle that no one can get out of. So I want them to be checking so that they can, use our class time more efficiently. I also don't want them having their night ruined because they couldn't figure out number 5, because they probably will ruin your night too. So I tell them, if you tried number 5, didn't work, try number 5, it didn't work. If you have to peek at the answers, most of them can probably reverse engineer the process and be fine. Ask me about the next day. So they'll have the answers every night. It's not only a time saver, it's a comfort thing. There will be a couple of them that learn the hard lesson about using the answers the wrong way. I'd rather learn that message in 7th grade than later on in life. It's easy for me to spot. They write things like, student responses will vary, or their work will, I've seen it before, or their work will look so much like mine, where it's like, wow, how did you think of that? And they're like, I don't know. Those are things for me to spot, but in general, this has been a big time saver for us. I want them to have a sense of confidence. I want them to realize, I'm getting this stuff without doing it in a nefarious way. But also, if they do run into a rogue question, like if number 5, which is going to be great for them, is a problem, I want them to persevere. I want them to work through it. I don't want them staying up until 12:30 trying to figure it out, because it's going to be fine. Just make sure that they ask the next day. So they'll learn this tomorrow. if you could just encourage them to be checking. The real goal for me, though, is not just saving time. I want them to build confidence. I want them to be like, I'm getting this stuff. But they don't have to wait till the next day to see all the answers to do that. I think I'm out of time. I don't know if they're ringing bells. Just in general, you can always contact me, not just about your student and how it's going. If you have other questions about the progression, where they're going, I do run the department. I do place them into their courses, so I can always talk to you about those things. At some point, I got them placed into the class across the hall, into here. So I can answer those for you at any time if you ever want to reach out. I deal with those questions all the time. They're off to a really good start, so I'm looking forward to the year. And again, I think I'm out of time, but they didn't tell us if they're ringing bells. Question, yes?
Just to clarify, so do you recommend them use the answers just if they're doing their homework and they hit a roadblock and then it's okay to look? Just, I'm curious how you would advise them to use that.
I tell them usually to complete it and then check at the end, make a note of the ones that they really think they need to check and then go through. But I tell them like, okay, you can tell them all the time, like, okay, if number 5 is giving you a hard time, skip it and go on. And like, we get it, it's some of them just won't do it. They won't do it. If it's a huge roadblock, I suggest look. The majority of them, I say, hey, check it at the end. What I find a lot of them doing is they're just working, and if there's something that's like really they want to know, they'll pull it up and look at it and then go back to work. So they kind of figure out what works for them and everything. So, yeah. I don't know if they made any else or I'm allowed to take them because I think your next session starts in 3 minutes. So, thank you for coming. If you do have questions, please feel free to reach out. That really started session 1. They may need help trying to read, let me know.
Just in case she honestly, in block 1, or like any, like, she was like,
Hey, good for her. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Brock. I'm the other
Oh, hi, yeah.
nice
Yeah, nice to meet you. Did they play it?
Yeah.
How did it?
I think they won. Yeah, I wasn't able to make it with work, but I do think they won.
I don't coach soccer anymore, but Rocco was my assistant for a long time when I coached here,
Oh, cool.
so he still keeps me posted on them.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hey, doing?
Hello,
Hi.
we are the Merrills, Cole Merrills.
Oh, hi, yeah, Mr. Patel, nice to meet you. Come on.
Thanks.
They never really started session 1, so I don't know.
Where do you want to be?
Anywhere. Anywhere we press.
With escape.
I always like to see if you end up in the same seat where they sat.
Here. Turman.
Close, he sits right there.